Hey, what's going on? I want to talk to you today about the second thing that I wish I would have known before I started doing the sacred account, the infinite banking concept. This almost made me feel like it was a mistake until I learned what I'm about to show you today. Stay tuned. Hey, what's going on? Jerry Fetta, CEO and founder of Wealth Dynamics, coming back to you with another money clip where I show you how I keep my own money together, what I'm doing with my finances. And the last week we did a episode that was actually on the first thing when I started doing this sacred account stuff, the first thing I wish I would have known, right? And if you missed last week's video, you can go back and check it out. But I started as an agent that didn't believe in the sacred account. I was a Dave Ramsey guy. I thought whole life insurance was the devil. And so when I started to look at this, I was really skeptical. And I didn't have an inside person. All I had was online research. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have someone that was close to me that could answer my questions. So I spent 30, 40 hours of research on this all in one weekend, over Christmas actually one time. And I got to the point where I was like, this makes sense, right? And I dove into it and there were a couple of gotchas, right? And so the purpose of me doing this video is if you have a sacred account, if you're thinking about getting one, maybe you did infinite banking or bank on yourself with someone else, and you feel like, man, I just don't quite understand this still. And there's things that I keep learning that are new, and I thought I had it down, and then I learned something else. I want to handle that for you in these videos, particularly in this series. Look what just arrived. I just got my copy of the Blueprint to Financial Freedom. Hey, enjoy the rest of the content. I don't want to interrupt you too long, but if you go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo or click the link in the description, you can get your copy now. Here's the thing that I wish I knew, and I'm going to whiteboard this out, right? When we hear about the infinite banking concept or the sacred account or bank on yourself or whatever it might be, we often are told that you can earn a 5 to 6% dividend, right? And let's clear this term up, dividend, okay? So because you are a policyholder, if you have a sacred account, if you have whole life insurance, like it's designed this way, you become an equity owner in the insurance company. And so you earn dividends. When they're profitable, they share their profits with you. That's where that dividend comes from. Just like if you buy AT&T stock, right, and they have surplus profits, they'll share that to you as a dividend, right? So you can earn dividends on your sacred account. This was advertised to me like this, and tell me if this sounds familiar, right? You put your money in, you can earn a 5 to 6% dividend, right? And when I was first doing this, rates were higher. So the number being touted was actually 6 to 8%, right? You can earn 6 to 8% in dividends. Now it's lower, right? But that was what I heard when I first signed up. And when you borrow, you can borrow against your money, and your interest is only 5 to 6% on your loan interest, right? Now, the concept of borrowing against my money was new to me, and this was one of the reasons why I thought whole life insurance was a ripoff at one point. I was like, why would I borrow my own money? It's mine. I don't want to borrow my money. That sounds ridiculous. And it wasn't until I realized that they meant borrowing against my money from the insurance company. Because I'm an owner in the insurance company, they're going to say, hey, Jerry, your cash value is growing. If you take it out, A, you could pay taxes if you have gains. B, if you take it out, it stops growing, just like at a bank, just like with stocks. If you take money out of a growing asset, you no longer have that growing asset. So it's not going to keep growing because you took the money out, right? And if you made money, you're going to pay taxes on it. So the concept was, well, when you borrow, you didn't take your money out, you took the insurance monies out, the company's money out. So your money's still there and it's still growing at what I was told was a 6 to 8% return, right? Dividend. And so because of that, you're still earning 6 to 8%. And of course, you're going to pay interest to the insurance company. But two things here. You're an owner in the insurance company. Very valid point. So it's kind of like paying interest to a company you own. It's like buying gas from a gas station you own. If you're going to buy gas, why go to someone else's station, right? But the other part of it was because of what the dividend was being advertised to me as, I looked at this and I was like, you mean I can make a profitable spread every time I take a loan? Right? I can make 8 and it only costs me 5 to borrow. I make 3% for borrowing my own money. No, I'm going to do that. That would be stupid not to do that. So I signed up, right? I sign up, I get my first policy, and there was a couple things I didn't realize. So the first thing is this, and I want to break this down visually for you, right? just to really avoid any confusion. All right, so when we're talking about this interest in this dividend, it's important to understand a couple of things. Okay, so this dividend, this gross rate, is broken down into two categories. You get guaranteed interest, then you get what's called a surplus dividend. And the combination of these two numbers comes up with that gross dividend rate of 6 to 8%. So your guaranteed surplus might be, let's say, like 3%, right? Just as an example. And you're going to make that no matter what. That's the guarantee in your contract. That's a beautiful thing about life insurance that's higher than a bank account, right? I like that guarantee. The surplus means if they're making surplus, the dividend is coming out because they're profitable, you might get a 3% surplus. Right? The combination of 3 and 3 comes out to 6. Right? That's where your 6% comes from. Now, this bottom half of the guarantee isn't really going to change. Right? Whatever you got locked in on your contract with is what you're going to have. The surplus dividend could change depending on the company's profitability. So recently, dividends have come down, right? And so we're seeing closer to like 5 to 6% dividends. Okay? So you're looking at this and you're like, Jerry, why is this a gotcha? You're just breaking down, how the dividend is made. Okay, well, the other part that was left out on this, check this out, was that this is a gross dividend rate. What do I mean by gross dividend rate? Okay, the difference between gross and net. Your gross pay is what's on your paycheck. Do you get your gross pay? No, you get your take-home pay. Your take-home pay is minus your taxes and your insurances and all this stuff that comes out before you actually get the money. This dividend is a gross dividend rate, okay? You're going to have to subtract out insurance costs and expenses. You will pay insurance costs and expenses, right? So what are these insurance costs and expenses? If you're reinvesting your dividend, which you should be, there's literally 0 point in doing a sacred account if you're not going to reinvest your dividend and you're not going to reinvest your guaranteed interest rate that you're earning, right? You're going to go in one of two ways. You're either going to buy more whole life insurance, okay? So you could, purchase more death benefit, and that's called paid up additions. And that paid up addition is going to have a fee, right? You're going to pay a fee when you do paid up additions, and that's just the cost of doing business. Okay, so a good rule of thumb is the insurance costs and expenses here. These are typically going to be maybe like 1 to 2%, right? So you're going to have 1 to 2% in costs and expenses. Okay, so if you're earning 6 to 8%, let's say 6, and you're paying insurance costs of, let's say 1.5%, just to put it in the middle there, when you get that dividend credit, your net or your take-home dividend is closer to like 4.5%. Right? Now, that is once the policy is built up. This is the other part. So I'm telling you this because I want you thinking with it. I'm going to show you my illustration in a second here so you see what I mean. When your policy is really revved up and it's fully what we call capitalized, meaning you funded it for probably 5 to 7 years and everything is just moving beautifully, that's about what you'll see on your annual yield, like your net take-home dividend after all your fees and stuff. Now, the other thing you've got to look at on this is if you do more of your cash that you're contributing to your policy towards your base death benefit, your immediate yields or dividend, your take-home dividends, typically will be higher, right? Why? Because you get the dividends, not the guaranteed interest rate. The guaranteed interest rate credit is for the cash value. That's your paid up additions. You don't generally earn dividend on that right away. You're going to get more of your guaranteed interest credits on that. And then your base whole life insurance that you're purchasing, those are the shares of ownership that you get. That's why that dividend is there. That's where it comes from. So if you own more base shares or more base death benefit, your dividend yield, your income is probably going to get higher because you're buying more income producing shares, right? Now your liquidity would be lower because you don't really get liquidity on money that goes towards those base premiums. Now, if you flip it the other way and you really go towards cash value, heavy cash value, high liquidity, that means you're buying less shares, which means that your income is going to be lower initially, but your liquidity will be higher. Okay, now you're probably looking at this and you're like, well, what? Okay, Jerry, what do I do there? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me on how do I pick? I want to have both. I want to have as much liquidity as I can, but I also want to have as much income as I can get. Okay, that all comes down to the design of the policy, right? There are ways to optimize it. Now, it's optimized for literally optimum. Like, you could say, I want the best of both worlds. That is the design goal of the policy. Or maybe you're paying off debt and you're like, it doesn't make sense for me to lose liquidity while I'm trying to pay off my debt. The interest rates on my credit cards are like 13%. So I don't mind having a lower dividend if the trade-off is higher liquidity and I eliminate those credit cards faster and I pay off that interest faster. So we're going to design that one with higher liquidity. Maybe you're like, I really want the income, right? This is my base income that I'm growing. I want lots of dividends. Okay, and so because of that, maybe we're going to design it specific to you where you've got lower liquidity, more base premium, more shares, therefore more income. It's totally up to you. That design is up to you, and our team does the consultation process with you on that. But here's the thing. I was never done, that process was never done with me. So I went into it thinking 6 to 8%, and I looked in my first year, I made like hardly anything, maybe 1 or 2%. And I was like, what the hell, right? And then I was like, do I even take a loan? Like, if I'm going to pay 5-6% interest, because that's the part that's real, is I was going to pay 5% to 6% interest. Should I even take a loan if I'm making 2% in the first year? Right? So I want to show you my illustration. I want to show you what I do and why I do it this way as well. Right? This is one of my actual policies. I have six policies now, going on a 7th here soon. I'd like to have 8 by the end of this year. So this is one of them, okay? And so this one, I just did $1,000 a month into it, right? And so you can see a couple of things that I'll notate here for you. And I've gone over this policy before. My annual contract premium, right? And actually, it's going to be the same numbers, but I like using the annual outlay better just because it's closer to all the stuff I'm looking at. Total annual outlay. So you can see that's about $1,000 a month, almost 12 grand a year. So I'm going to put in 11,869, and at the end of my first year, my cash value is going to be 8568. Right? 8568. Now, if I look at this and I'm like, okay, cool. How do I look at like taking loans and stuff? I look at the loan on the term. Right? So let me ask you this question. Would you start a business that maybe in the first year, maybe in the second year wasn't going to be profitable? Right? You might invest into it and it might not pay you back what you invested into it yet. But after that first year or after that second year, it was going to be profitable every single year after that. Would you? I would, because that's most businesses. Most businesses fail, 95% of them fail in the first 5 years. So if I can show you with this, that in the first 5 years, after that point, you're going to be fine, this is better than most businesses, right? And so here's what I look at. Guys, I want to go ahead and clarify, I don't look at the dividend rate at all anymore. It is literally like inconsequential. I don't pay attention to that number. Why? Because I just told you, it can lower. They say it's 6 to 8%, but then there's fees, and it's really only 4.5. And then I'm looking at, okay, well, is it 4.5? But then I check my thing, and it says I made 2, and it depends on how much cash value I have and how much death benefit I have. In my business, I don't look at percentages. When someone's like, what did you make last year, Jerry? I'm not like, I made 6%, right? No, I say I made this much money. A bank doesn't say we made blah percent. Banks make you think in percentages. Think about it, your loan interest rates, your credit cards, that's all in percentages. Banks deal in dollars. You need to deal in dollars too. So what it comes down to is how much money are you putting in? When are you breaking even? Right? When does your business become profitable? One of the first things we look at with this is what I call the magic ATM machine, right? So let's check this out. We're looking at, okay, I'm putting in $12,000 a year. I want to go to year 5 on this illustration, right? And I want to look at basically the differences in my net cash value, because that shows you how much it increased, right? So from year 4 to year 5, and I want to show you how much the increase would be. Okay, so if I take out my calculator here, we're going to look at, I've got 52,593 in cash, in my cash value. The previous year was 40,038. Okay, that's an increase of $12,555. Now, what did I put in that year? I put in 11,869, right? So my business model with this is I deposit money into my business and immediately I make profit on those dollars, right? That's the first thing I'm looking at. So if I deposit 11,869 and 61 cents and I get an increase of 12,555, I made profit. How much profit did I make? Well, if I subtract out the 11,869.61, I recouped my entire contribution that year, plus I made $685 in profit. Think about that. I can't do that with most businesses. Like I can't, as an owner, I can't contribute capital into a business and in the same year get all of my money back plus a profit, right? Now, that was in year 4 to year 5. We said most businesses fail within the first 5 years. So let's look at after, right? Let's look at the period afterwards. So when I look at like just even the following year, right? Let's look at year, let me erase this just so it's a little more clear for you to look at. Let's look at from year 5 to year 6, because year 5 to year 6 is where most businesses would no longer be around. Okay, now you're in the business of banking. That's why I'm calling this a business. You need to think of it like a business, not like an investment, because it isn't one, right? So your value, your cash value at the end of that year in year 5 to year 6, the end of year 6 is 65,620, right? And the prior year was 52,593. Okay, so I have an increase that year of $13,027, right? Again, what did I put in? I put in 11,869 and 61 cents. Okay, so I made $1,157.39 in profit in addition to recouping all of my capital. Think about that. How many businesses can you say that that's happening in the 5th and 6th year with minimal time involved? Right? So this is really what I'm looking at, is this is a winnable business for me. It's an easy business to win at. Now, the other thing I'm going to be looking at here is I want to see, when is my break even? Right? And for this, we've got some calculators we can use. Right now, though, we're going to go old school. So you're looking at the total annual outlay column, right? And I want to make sure you guys can see my calculator on this, so you're tracking with the whole thing here. All right, we should be able to see my calculator now too. All right, so we have the total annual outlay, right? And so I want to basically see if I'm putting about $12,000 a year in, right? I want to see, when do I break even? Now, I think it's probably after year 5, but I'm just looking at the numbers here. We've got 11,869 and 61 cents. Let's see about in year 6. Okay, so by year 6, I've put in 71,000. My net cash value is 65. So I haven't quite done the full break even yet, right? By year 7, 11,869 and 61 cents times 7 years, that's 83. Year 7, I still haven't quite done break even. 11,869 and 61 cents times 8. Okay, 94,956, and in year 8, my cash value is 93,176. So I'm breaking even in like sometime in year 8 to 9, right? Somewhere in that range, which means that 100% of the capital that I've put in, I can pull back out all years. So if you're thinking about this as a business, right? This is called your basis. I've been in business since 2012, and I still have basis on my company, meaning there's still money that I've contributed to my company that I've not earned back in profits, right? After 12 years, 13 years. So I'm showing you on this one, 8 or 9 years in, you've recouped your entire investment. Okay, this is just like with my real estate, by the way. By year 7, 8, you've recouped 100% of what you put in. and the rest is all still growing. It's the same concept. It's beautiful, okay? So I've recouped 100% of what I've put in, right? My cash value is still increasing by quite a bit. Let's look at the annual increase on this one. Okay, so let's look at from year 8 to year 9. So in year 9, end of the year, I've got a cash value of 107,734. Previous year is 93,176. That's an annual increase of 14,558. I only put in that year 11,869 and 61 cents. So I made a profit that year of $2,688.39. Plus recouping everything I put in, not just for that year, for all years, which now means every single dollar I put in is now pure profit. If you had a business where guaranteed you knew every single dollar you put in was going to produce pure profit from here on out forever, would you do that business? For me, yes. As a business owner, yes. Now, what I want to show you is the next thing here. You're going to notice on my illustration, there's a period here where it actually just, my contributions drop, right? Why? Because my policy is funded now. It's capitalized. Like we've put enough capital into it that it's basically what I call phase 2. I can pull back and just generate income now. Okay, so check this out. Let's look at the annual increases here. So we have, let's say from year 12, year 11 and 12. Let me just notate this for you guys. I want to show you when this thing really gets souped up and I'm like, now I'm going to pull my contributions back a bit, right? And that means I can open more policies. I can do other things now, right? So we've got an ending cash value of 137,286. That's in end of year 12. End of year 11, the prior year, we had 129,921. Oops, sorry, 129,921. Okay, so I had an annual increase that year of $7,365. Okay, $7,365. Now, what did I put in? I put in $2,967. So let me show you some math here. This is where I really get excited about this. If I divide this by 29.67 and 41 cents, my growth, I'm dividing my growth, my net growth, by the amount of money I've put in. I'm making $2.48 for every dollar I put in. That's a 248% return on investment that year. If that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what does, right? That's incredible. So guys, that's why I'm telling you, when I first started, I was all about the dividend. Dividend, loan rate dividend, and it was very technical until I started to really use the policy. And here's the difference. An agent or advisor or financial educator who uses their sacred account, not just has one, because some of them just have one, not just talks about it and does videos, because some of them talk about it and do videos. Guess what? They don't actually have one. They actually successfully use it. Guys, I grew my business with my sacred account. I did all of my personal development using my sacred account. That's high 6 figures just on that. I've done all of my investments with my sacred account. I've purchased my vehicles with my sacred account. I bought my dog Kiona with my sacred account. I freaking use this thing, right? So I hope this video today gave you some clarity on what you should be looking at. And I want to just open it up. If you're a client of mine and you've never done this type of deep dive on your illustration, I want to offer that to you. Okay, if you are someone who is interested in the sacred account and you'd like to do a free consultation and look at this for your own policy before you start, I want to offer that to you. Okay, if you did business with somebody else and it's not related to me at all and you're just like, I feel confused, I could use some guidance, right? It's great that you got the car. It's great that you got the Ferrari. You don't know how to drive it yet. Nobody taught you how to drive. So if you were like, I signed up for a sacred account, I've got the Ferrari, but it's just been sitting in my garage parked. I don't use it. It's not working the way I want. I don't understand it. I would love to have my team do the same thing with you. Just get us your illustration, reach out in the comments, and we would be happy to provide a free review for you and just go over what do your numbers look like? Is your thing designed correctly? If it is, great, let's keep it. If it is, let's get you using it correctly. If it's not, let's get it corrected so you can get what you wanted in the first place. So guys, I hope this video was helpful. I know it was a bit long. I know it was a bit numbers and charts, but this stuff is numbers. You're in the business of banking. You better be into numbers, right? So thanks for watching. Like, share. Please help me out. Subscribe below. I want to build my channel up. And definitely, like I said, share this with someone. If you know someone that should see this video, make sure it gets in their hands. I'll see you next time. I want to thank you for watching my video. If you learned something from this, if it was value to you, what I'd like to do is I'd actually like to give you a free copy of my book, Blueprints Financial Freedom. This is perfect for those that are on my channel learning this stuff and you want to take it to the next level. So if you go to the link jerryfetta.com, just my first and last name, jerryfetta.com/B2F promo, or click the link in the description, grab a free copy, we'll send it out to you. Can't wait to get you a copy in your hands.